Welcome to Ngosti Talk Shows. Lead from within.
Find your own voice.
Challenges we have had to overcome in 2020.
Find your own voice.
The world has become united by the unseen, knowing there are no guarantees for tomorrow.
Lead from within.
Find your own voice.
Let the world hear your voice and be filled within.
For the day has come for you to be a great leader.
The time has come to break away from the pain, distraction, experience the unthinkable.
The time has come for you to experience the unthinkable and break away from the pain. Over to you, Amanda. Please introduce yourself to our audience.
My name is Amanda Cottrell. I'm coming to you from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. It is 6 a.m. here, so I'm happy to be here with you. I'm the founder of Art, Mindfulness, and Creativity, and I'm the author of 8 children's books.
Awesome, Amanda. Thank you very much. Over to you, Carol Ann. Please introduce yourself to our audience.
Good afternoon from London, UK. And yes, I'm Carol Ann, and as the writing facilitator, what I do is I support soul-driven entrepreneurs in becoming more productive with their writing by helping them to connect more deeply with that inner writer. But more importantly, my words seem to just gone and be fumbling, and maybe that's how you feel when you're writing. And what I do is I help them to become free-flowing when you're writing and actually unlock that writer within, unmute your story so that you get your book published, you get it written, because you cannot publish what isn't written. So all of this has come about through my own journey of unlocking the writer within and discovering a joy of words that I never used to have. So something is opening up in that way. So let's see what opens up here today, Nomsa.
Thank you so much, Carol Ann. And our topic today actually is how to find time to get your book written. And both of you girls, you have written your books. And Amanda, you are an author for children, right? And Carol Ann, you just said what you do. Do you actually write books as well? Have you written any books or?
I've got some books in the pipeline that have been there for years and I keep working away at, but I have actually written some pieces for 3 collective book projects, community book projects. So I've got 7 pieces in those 3 books. So yes, I'm published.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm excited to learn from you guys how to write a book, how to find time to actually have your book written. So I'm gonna start with you, Carol Ann, because you are the coach. Over to you, please. Could you tell us how do you find time to get your book written?
That's a really good question. And actually, I don't term myself a coach. I actually term myself as the writing facilitator, because what I do is facilitate the process of unlocking that writer within. But actually, what I've discovered is that a lot of people say they want to write a book and they know how important it is for their business to get their book written, to get their story written. But somehow they just don't put it first. They go, I can't find the time. I don't have the time. Everything else seems to take precedence. So it just got me thinking, different ways about, well, how could we address that? What is it that maybe stops people from writing? because, and what I've realized is there's different things, but there's also different ways of looking at how you can get your book written. And so, like to explore that today. And really one is, the first thing is to actually look at, do you call yourself a writer? Because from my journey, I was never one that liked writing, having been a maths teacher and now unlocked the writer within me. And I never referred to myself as a writer. People say, oh, you're a writer. And I go, no, that's not me. And then I started realizing, well, yes, I have written. I've been published in these books now. So I started to put on that thing and think, okay, I am a writer. And you know what? It feels different. So maybe look at, do you actually refer to yourself as a writer? Because there, in that case, if you don't, then are you going to find time to write your book? I don't think so. So I think that's step one.
Thank you so much, Carol Ann. Over to you, Amanda. So basically, this question is for you to give some tip to the audience. You found time to have your book written and published. So can you please explain to our audience, because writing a book is not an easy thing. So can you explain to them, having your daughter, and how did you find time to actually write your own book?
Well, I'm just going to touch a little bit on what Carol Ann said about looking at yourself as a writer, because I think that's something really important. And I think that's something, especially if you have kids who are super passionate, unless they see you as a writer as well, then it's really hard to get them to write. And so as a teacher, because that's my main career, the fact that I actually write books, children are so empowered by the fact that they see me writing and drawing and writing drafts and showing them the drafts. And it just empowers them so much more to see themselves as a writer as well. And so really writing can be even as simple as starting to write in a journal on a regular basis. Oh, my cat just wants to join the video. Half of my battle is getting my cat not to be in my space when I'm trying to draw or write. So there's that battle. The other thing is you just have to start, and it doesn't, like my very first book took me 4 years. It only took me, it's a children's book, so it only took me literally like 5 minutes to write, because I wrote it after a meditation at a retreat that I was at, and it was called It's Okay to Feel. But the part that took me the 4 years was doing the illustrations, learning how to self-publish on Amazon, like all of life's battles, because I did the retreat when I was first getting divorced, and I was in the middle of my master's, and I was living in my aunt and uncle's basement. There was just so many barriers in my world at that point in time that it took me 4 years to get that from idea after the meditation to it published. And I had to meet people along the way, because my original plan was just, I needed this book in my classroom to help kids understand that it's okay to feel. And I'm very, very passionate about that feelings are okay no matter what they are. You can feel angry, you can feel sad, you can feel joyful, you can feel empowered, but how do you deal with those emotions? So when they're good emotions or positive emotions, and they make you feel good, who do you share them with? And then when they're negative emotions, how do you help yourself to get out of that cycle? And so I knew I needed to get this book into my classroom and into the hands of kids. And I just didn't know how. So the world just opened up for me once I started my process, because I started to meet people who had self-published on Amazon, and I took courses and I learned, where originally my book was just going to be one book in my classroom for my students to use. So I really think that it is just starting. It is being gentle with yourself. Because I write children's books, the writing part doesn't take me very long. What takes me the longest is the illustrations, because I also illustrate my books. And so that's the part where I'm like, oh yeah, this is easy. I've got this idea. I even have this draft of one that I just wrote a while ago. And I've started the illustrations. Actually, my daughter Ella is 10 and she started storyboarding the illustrations for me. And so that's something where that part was easy. I had this idea and I scribbled it down, but then the part that I need to get motivated for is the illustrations, because that's the part that takes me the longest. And that's the part where I'm like, oh, I'm tired, I'm just gonna watch Netflix. Or, oh, I've had a long day, I'm just gonna scroll on social media, where I really need to make myself set aside time to ensure that I am focusing on my goals and focusing on getting my illustrations done so I can publish my book.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Amanda. You actually touched that it took you 4 years. I heard Tony Robbins saying writing a book is, he said the B word. It was like, if you are starting and you're starting your business, I would recommend not to write a book straight away, because if you're going to write a book, if you're going to write a good book, it's going to take you a long time, and it requires to do some research and everything. So I was like, basically, I took his advice, and I was like, because I was going to the events, meeting the writers, and I was getting drawn into the writing. I was like, I'm gonna be a writer, I need to write my book. But once I saw his event saying, if you are starting your business, focus on the business and then write your book later, because writing a good book is not easy as everyone thinks. So do you agree with that, Carol Ann?
I agree it takes time, and you do need to give it that focus, and give it the time that it deserves. I think that actually this idea that it takes a long time to write something is actually something that we've grown up with, because maybe it took you time to write something before. And so we have this belief it takes a long time, where actually it can be quite quick. When you dive in and you unlock that writer within, words flow in a different way, and they do flow more quickly, and also need less editing as well. I remember working with my dad many years ago when I first started training in educational kinesiology, and he agreed to let me do a process with him, and he was going, don't really need this, I'm just want to be a guinea pig. And I said, that's fine, Dad, and he actually decided to look at this article that he was writing. He and 2 other friends would write for the news article once a quarter for their gardening club, and it was his turn. So he spent the evening just setting the goal, and I was doing some work with him on it to shift what was in the way. And he at one point said, oh, I don't mean to be funny, he said, but I wanted to get this done tonight. And I said, well, just let's do the work. Let's see what happens, Dad, Anyway, we did it. And by the end of doing the process with him, he completely changed his idea. He started looking at and making notes. When I came back the following week, because I used to visit them once a week, my mum and dad, and he came bounding downstairs. He says, I've done it, he said. I spent tonight and I've done it. I said, so what was different? He said, oh, it just flowed. It just flowed. And I've done it. And he showed it to my mum, and she literally just gave one little tweak. And I said, so what's different there? He said, well, normally there's lots of things that she picks and I have to rewrite it. He sent it to his friends, the other 2 gentlemen, that they collaborated and shared the task. And they didn't give him any corrections. So actually, it saved him time, because he got it done in one time. Whereas normally, he said, well, normally I have to rewrite the thing several times before I get it right. So, this is where this idea that it takes time comes in. But also we do take time to think about it and ruminate and put it off. And that takes time, the actual writing. As Amanda was saying, when she sat down and wrote it, it was quite quick. But there is, yes, there is research, there is looking into other aspects of it and bringing it all together. But there is this myth that I think can now be debunked, that actually we can write more quickly than we think, and that we've grown up with or led to believe. So yeah, it was exciting, and I was really excited for my dad. He was thrilled.
Writing a book is like recording music, because recording music you have to go over and over and over things as well. And but writing a song, you can take time, or sometimes you can look at something or look at a flower or a person and just they inspire you to do it. It sounds like it sounds like it's fun. How can I get my book published quickly, Amanda? Please.
Well, I think I tell people it took me 4 years to write my first book, they're like, oh man, I don't have that time. But once you learn how to do it, the really cool thing is that after I started, I was able to publish 8 children's books in 3 years. And so it really, once I learned what to do and I learned what I was doing, I was able to get books out really quickly, and I just started my like I said, the longest part for me was the illustrations. But because I knew the process and I knew what to do, and I had done all of that learning for the first book, the next book was easier, and the next book was easier. And then what I learned from publishing 8 children's books in 3 years was that even though I published these books, which is wonderful, I had a lot more learning to do, and the learning had to do around marketing. And so instead of writing more books, my focus now has been to learn how to market and to improve my books, because I was originally just drawing them by hand and painting them, and then I would do them and publish them all myself. But I then learned that they weren't looking as quality as I wanted. So I've gone back and been spending time re-illustrating 3 of my books, because I just felt that I could do such a better job and make them better and more appealing to people just by using my iPad Pro to make them. And so you learn on the go. You're always constantly learning. You're always constantly tweaking. And so something that I think that people really have to think about when they're publishing their book is it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. You can always go back and change it too, especially if you are self-published, because I can go back in and change things at any time. I can change the cover, I can change the illustrations, but I got my book out there. And so sometimes it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, it just needs to be done. And because I am a writer, and one thing I've said to my students always, because I'm a teacher too, is that you can always improve. No matter what it is, you can always improve. I was in the middle of doing my master's at some point in time, and I was marking students' writings, and I said, no matter how good your writing is, I'm always going to give you a suggestion. So never take that as a negative, because even when I'm doing a master's class and I still get an A+ on my paper, I still have suggestions from my professor stating how I could have made my paper better. And I know even when I hand it in that there's things that I could have done to make it better. It's never going to be absolutely perfect. And I think that's something that so many people who want to be writers are struggling with. They don't want to get it out there because it's not quite perfect. And that's what kids struggle with too, is they're like, it's not good enough, it's not good enough. And I always say, there's always room for improvement, no matter what it is that you're doing, whether you're an Olympic athlete or you're a writer or you're an artist, there's always room for improvement and learning. And sometimes just getting it done And having that one piece done and on the way takes you to the next step that you need to take. And so for me, now the next step that I have to take is I've started writing for adults as well. And so, and while I want to write a book for adults, I've started just small by writing articles once a month for a magazine. And so just baby steps along the way, and know that as you take your baby steps, you will get to where you want to go.
I think you've made some really important points there, Amanda, because, you know, you say you had to research about how to publish it. And obviously you asking that question, how do you publish? So many people actually get hung up on, how am I going to publish this? How am I going to market it? How am I going to publish it? That they actually forget that unless it's actually written, you can't publish anything, you know? So maybe there's a shift that needs to happen, because as Amanda just said, there is an easy process, and there are actually other people that can support you with that process. Shift the focus on getting it written, because yes, there is research to be done, depending on what sort of book you're doing, but actually get it written. And yes, it doesn't need to be perfect. You can always go back and change it. And I think that is another key point to remember, that actually first draft is first draft. And I can't remember which way around his name is. I think it's Reed Tracy from Hay House Books. He says, just write it from beginning to end. Don't edit it, then leave it, come back and look at it, because when you're trying to edit it as you go, you never get anywhere, you know. So just write it, and then be prepared to go back, look it over, tweak it. And I remember that actually when I was at college, this was something I learned, and it wasn't until about my final year in college that I suddenly went, oh, this is what essays is about. You know, I would draft it out. I would have notes here, there, and everywhere. I would put it together, and then I would write it out again, and then I'd write it out again, until it was then in a form that was right. It is that being willing to redraft it and redraft it. But then at some point go, yep, this will do, and put it out there, knowing that you can come back to it. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. That sounds really, really awesome. I hope somebody who will be watching this video and they want to write their own book, they will actually get some tips. So what are the principles for finding time to write? There must be some rules that you have to put in place to be disciplined, basically. Amanda, or
Go for it, Amanda. Go.
Sometimes you have to break things that are not go to things that you want to go to. So for example, I was illustrating for another lady. She was writing a book and I was being the illustrator for her. That was actually my first, as I was writing my It's Okay to Feel book and illustrating it, I was also illustrating a book for another lady. And one of the things that I had to do was also be like, I'm going to get this many illustrations done each week. And one time I got invited to a Super Bowl party and I had to be like, I'm sorry, I can't come because I promised I would get these 3 illustrations done by today and they're not done yet, so I can't come, but I can send my daughter over. And the lady, my daughter was like 4 or 5 at the time, and they just lived a couple houses down, and they wanted me to come so that their kid had somebody to play with too. I'm like, Ella can come over, but I have to sit at home and avoid the party because I need to get these illustrations done. Plus, I don't like football anyways. I like soccer, but in Canada, we call soccer and football different things, but the American football, I can do without. But sometimes you have to cancel things and you have to schedule time to get it done. So one of the things that I do is I write a list, and I write a list of all of the things that I want to accomplish, whether it's like writing an article, I want to get 1 illustration done, or I need to get this many Instagram posts ready for the week. And 2, but also be gentle with yourself. Sometimes you set goals and things just don't work out the way you planned, because like even just right now, I just got a message finding out that my grandma just passed away. So I probably won't be able to accomplish all of the goals that I had for this week because I just had something really happen with me. So yeah, there's sometimes that you just have to be gentle with yourself, and that's okay to be like, okay, all of these things just bombarded me this week. And so I'm not going to achieve the goals that I had, and that's really okay. But then next week, step up and say, I'm going to get all of these things done.
Your grandmother passed away.
Yeah, I just got a text message.
Really?
At 4:30 this morning, but she's 97 and it was expected. So
yeah. That is so beautiful. My great grandmother died when she was 109. It's so nice to see you laughing, celebrating her life, because you actually, that means you have good memories.
Yeah, I really do. And I think that you have to just take each day at a time, right?
Yeah.
And so it actually is a relief for me, because I was with her yesterday and I was sitting with her, holding her hand and just saying like, it's okay, because we haven't been able, because of COVID, we haven't been able to go in for a year.
Yeah.
She was only allowed to have 2 people until they said it was end of life. So I got to spend a couple times with her just since they said it was end of life. So I got to spend 2 times with her before she passed away. So I'm really grateful for that.
That's nice.
I'm sorry, Amanda. Oh, thank you for turning up.
Well, I just found out in the middle of this.
Oh my goodness.
While we were talking.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm sorry. And thank you for celebrating her life, because it looks like you is that on your mom's side or your daddy's side?
On my mom's, but yeah, so I just think that people have to really like take each day as they go, right? And that's something that you can't get down on yourself when you don't achieve your goals, and then just pick yourself up the next day or the next week and say, I'll get these done later.
Thank you so much, Carol. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, and I think just saying it, you scheduling things is important, but it's also recognizing when you can just leave it, give time to what is here in the moment. And I think if anything, this whole pandemic time has shown us that it's about being in the moment. You can plan, as much as you want to plan, but they keep getting changed. You never know what's going to happen the next moment. And so yeah, I'd just like to send love to you, Amanda, and your Ran, and and it's lovely to have you smile and have that way of, as you say, celebrating her life, and that what's happened has happened, and the upset is usually what we make it mean, and the fact that you were able to have that time with her makes it really special, and be able to say goodbye in a beautiful way. So scheduling, yes, do schedule time. And something that Toni Morrison, he's suggests that find time at the edges of the day. And when I read that, I'm thinking, oh, what a lovely concept. What is the edges of the day? So it's either that early morning or it's that late at night. Depends which suits you,
Yeah.
And maybe could you just schedule in quarter an hour or half an hour? But then it is about being consistent, because, if you set aside an hour for writing, then in an hour, maybe you could write 1,000 words, or however many you're able to do it in an hour. But then you do that over 7 days. All of a sudden there's 7,000 words, And so if you're wanting to write 70,000 word book, 10 weeks, there it's done, 2.5 months, just by being consistent. And it's where could you find that piece of time? So maybe at the edges of the day, or maybe where you maybe like to sit and relax for 2 hours and watch TV. Could you say, right, I'm going to give myself 1 hour relaxation of TV, 1 hour of writing? You know, it is about just making that commitment to being that writer, to getting it done, and maybe getting somebody to hold you to account. You know, be accountable to yourself, but also asking someone to be an accountability buddy, because having someone as an accountability buddy also does help the process along, you know, where you can just sort of go, oh, I'm struggling today, and can we talk about it? Or they can nudge you along, you know. So yeah, just where could you find a little bit of time consistently? But also, yeah, if life does happen, be prepared to put it aside, but do pick it up again, because we can have a tendency to just let it slide if we're not careful. You know, step into that. I am a writer, I'm committed, and I'm going to get this done, and just step back into that schedule and be consistent. And I know that's something that I haven't done. I'm very good at saying this, and I've been aware of it all this time, and I'm going, oh, come on, Carol-Anne. But I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
One of the things that I do, I'm going to just add on to what Carol-Anne said, because I'm a single mom and I'm a teacher, and I do a bunch of things all the time. And so one of the things that I try to do is that when I have my daughter and it's time for her to go to bed, I make sure that everything's done so we can so that I can go to bed at the same time that she does. And then I sit in bed and I draw or I write. And that's just like my time. And so then I go to bed at like 9 o'clock, but I really write or I draw until 10:30. And that gives me that time. But if I didn't go straight to my room after leaving her room from reading and cuddling with her, then I would like come and I clean and I get distracted with all of these other things. So I just make sure I'm in my jammies and got my teeth brushed. I go straight from the bedtime with her to bedtime with me, but it's also my create time. And I know that doesn't work for everyone, because sometimes they need to not be creating right before bed, but that seems to work for me. So I'm not a morning person. Getting up for this talk show at 5 a.m. every Tuesday is really hard because mornings are not my thing. But nighttime seems to work better for me. So you have to do whatever time it is that works best for you. The other thing too is just even maybe you bring your computer or your iPad with you in the car. And lots of times I've done writing in the car when I'm going to the ski hill, or when I'm sitting at one of my daughter's events, not right now because of COVID, but when she used to do gymnastics, I would just take my computer with me and I'd sit there through the whole gymnastics thing and type away, because I couldn't see her anyways. You couldn't watch them. So I would just use that time to work. And so any little bits of time, especially with busy moms or busy parents, that you just have to have your stuff with you at all times, so that if you're sitting in your car, you can be like, I'm going to pull this out and get a little bit of work done, even if it's a 10-minute gap. And so I really think that what you were saying about just like finding some time, even it doesn't necessarily have to be scheduled, but you have to make it tweak to your little, what works for you. Right. And 9 o'clock bedtime and creating until 10:30 is what works for me.
Awesome. Yes, you can get creative actually in different times. I get creative I find myself, I get creative in the morning and then in the night, just like what you're saying, just before I go to bed as well. So it is nice to actually find the time that suits you as well. Do you have anything to add, Carol-Anne?
Well, interestingly enough, because I'm not a morning person, and when I saw the edges of the morning get up at 5 o'clock, and I'm going, oh, no. But interestingly enough, something happened last night. looked at this and thought about it. And having done a lot of inner work on myself around getting writing and breaking through these barriers that are stopping me from writing some of the things I want to get written, I've got a 300-piece blog, a 300-word blog that I promised as a guest blog. And I sort of started it yesterday. And I woke up, as I do most nights, sort of around 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. And I usually go to the toilet, come back, and I'll sit and I'll scroll through my phone, through Facebook, you know, and I can feel that energy. It's like I'm not going anywhere with that. And it is quite heavy. And what I found myself doing the early hours of this morning was I started scrolling and then I put it down. And I picked up this writing and I was writing. And I just sat there and I wrote and I thought, wow. And I ended up writing 3 pages, you know, about 6 sides. And when I totted it up, I thought, oh, gosh, I've done quite a few more words than I actually need, but I can put it together, you know, in the morning. But what I realized was that actually something else you can do is stop scrolling and recognize the energy drain that actually has on you and how heavy your energy becomes and how you feel inside. Because after I was just allowing this writing to happen, I felt much lighter and I was thinking, oh, wow. And I actually found that I went off in tangents that I hadn't thought about before. Things were coming through and I'm going, wow, I hadn't thought about that, you know? And I think around about sort of 5-ish in the morning is actually a time to connect with your spirit and with your soul. And that's when channelings can come through. So yeah, stop scrolling and allow yourself to write what's there to be written. And actually, when I started typing it up this morning, I've only written one of the pages, the 2 sides, and I'm on 187 words. And I'm going, oh, wow, I've got another 2 pages here, both sides to fit in. I've only got to do 300 words. So actually, I just need to condense it a bit to get the 300 words. And it'll be done within a few minutes, you know. So I was really surprised. But yeah, it's amazing, actually. Again, when you do the inner work and you then realize, think about, well, what could you do other than scrolling? Maybe you could write. Something inside just happens and you find yourself doing it. So yeah, I'm delighted. So yeah, I don't know whether I'm a morning or an evening writer now, but maybe I'm a bit of both. It's just, I love that concept. Edges of the day. Awesome. But I love how you say you get yourself ready and then do it at the end of the day, Amanda. That's great, you know, because it's what works for you. And it is recognizing what works for you and doing it.
That's because getting myself out of bed is like the worst thing in the world. You have no idea how much willpower it takes me to get up, to be honest.
Yeah, I did go back to bed again and had a good sleep. But it was,
oh no, I have to go to work.
I know.
You know how I get out of bed, Amanda? Do you know how I get out of bed? I put my phone under the pillow. When the alarm actually goes off, it makes me jump. When I wake up, I'm like on one side of the bed. I'm like, is it time to get out? Then I have to think about it 3 times, maybe a few seconds. Then I'm like, yeah, it is out. Or sometimes I have to say, no, I'm so out of bed.
I'm the worst. I'll hit the snooze button like 20 times. I need to just get up.
I've never met anyone who loves getting up in the morning. I've met people that really love what they do, that will make them get out of bed, but I've never met anyone that says, oh, I love getting up in the morning.
Well, I love getting up to be on here.
I think you love coming to Ngozi Talk Show when you actually dressed up. We are like, yeah, now I'm ready. So where do you get your ideas, Amanda, when you're writing? Do you have to be in a certain place? do you have to be in a certain place or a room, or how do you get your ideas?
For me, I get my ideas from, because I write children's books for the most part, I get my ideas from my classroom and what I think I need. One day I had these two boys just at each other, and they were fighting, and they were having like the worst day, and I'm like, you guys are like the best kids, like why are you arguing constantly? And so I went home and I wrote this book all about how we need to treat people at school, but it was called What Do You Learn at School? And really what you learn at school has nothing to do with the content that I teach them, because they're not going to remember anything about what I teach them in grade 5. They might remember like some of the fun projects or something, but they really are going to remember how I made them feel and how their classmates made them feel. And so the very purpose of my book was to get kids to consider, how do you want to be remembered in 20 years? And how do you want to make people feel? Because that is what they're going to remember in 20 years. And so after that experience with those children just being like little turkeys to each other, I came home and I scribbled down my thoughts of what do we learn at school? And it really isn't about what I'm teaching you at all. You're not going to remember any of it, but you are going to remember how I made you feel. And so I went back to school the next day and I took my scribbled jot notes in my notebook with me and I read it to the class, and you could have heard a pin drop in my classroom. And it is the first time my students have ever erupted in applause after I finished reading them something. And I said, do you think I should turn this into a story the same way that I've done that? Because I'd already written a couple of books. And they're like, yes, absolutely. You have to. And so I did. It still took me like 2 years to get that one done because I was in the process of doing some other projects, but I did get it finished. And it is so empowering to think about what is it that you want to learn. How do you want to be remembered? And so for me, the next book that I was thinking that I got my idea from was because of the Black Lives Matter stuff that's was happening in the States in the summer. And I didn't want to write something that had, and in Canada too, we're learning a lot about First Nations and Indigenous groups. And I didn't want to look at anything specifically towards race, but I wrote the one that I'm working on now that I showed you the draft for is called Let's Start Today and Create a Better Tomorrow. It has nothing to do with race, but it's just about when you hear things, how can we think about and take steps every single day to make a better tomorrow? So what's one tiny step that you could take to make a better tomorrow? And life can become better now, even when we see all these travesties happening in the world, by choosing to be kind instead of cruel, by lending a helping hand, we can achieve something quite grand, right? And so I actually made it into a rhyming book too. So it has nothing to do with race, but it was something that I'm seeing these things happening in the world. These are the things that we learn about in history of all these unkind things that have happened. How can I help teach kids that we have the power to create a better tomorrow? And so that's where my next inspiration came from. But then too, some of it comes from my passion projects like yoga. So I wrote a book called I'm Fearless, a yoga story for kids and superheroes, because I wanted to empower kids and get them up and moving through yoga. And then some of my other ones are just specifically to what I was teaching, which was a yoga journey through India and a yoga journey through Peru, because I wanted some way to engage and excite the kids when we started learning about those countries when I was teaching grade 3. And so it was like a starter, and then also getting the kids up and moving, and also getting them excited about learning about the social studies that we were going to be doing. So I kind of take things from all over the place, and sometimes I'll have an idea like for an article just out of the blue and I scribble it down on my phone, and then when I have time I go back and I sit down and I write it. So when you get those like random ideas in your head, that's the first start. And maybe you'll take that random idea and turn it into something, maybe you won't. But I also have a list of when I decided to start writing for the magazine, I knew I had 12 months that I had to write for and I'm on like month 7 now. And so I had jotted down when I was like, okay, I'm going to take this on, a bunch of different topic ideas that I'm like, okay, these are things that I can talk about and I can write on really easily. And so these are something that, even though I'm not going to write all 12 articles all at once, at least when I'm like having a writer's block, I can go back and be like, okay, I need an idea because I have to get something done for this month for the magazine. And I have no ideas. So what am I going to write on? And I'll go back to where I jotted all those ideas down. And I'll be like, okay, I'm going to write on this month. So I think you just have to take it from every place that you can. One of my best-selling books is called Divorce is a D Word. Sometimes 2 homes are better than 1. And it actually came because one of my student teachers said to me, I never realized how many parents are divorced in classrooms, and you write children's books. And until I started being in classrooms, I never realized how many separate homes there are. And because you've been divorced and you've gone through this and you've been teaching for so many years, why don't you write a book to help kids whose parents are separating? And so that's where that idea came from. And I just went with it. And so I think you just have to be open, but then also be willing to spend the time to follow through on that idea.
Absolutely. Life gives you all of the ideas that there are, and definitely life's lessons are there. They are the true lessons, as you say, not what you're being taught, not the subject that's being taught at the time. It is life's lesson. It's what's happening. There is the true lesson. And yeah, I totally agree with you, Amanda. And actually, what you sort of touched on was you had an aim for the book. You had a purpose for the book. You also had an audience for the book. And so, and there was you've got a why that drives you as well. And most times people have lost touch with that. And that's why I've created a 5-day writing challenge, which I'm running from the 5th of April to the 9th of April. And it will be a regular thing that I will do to help people reconnect with the aim, the purpose, their why, and who their target audience is. Because when you've got that insight, and that helps you keep on track, that brings you back to then, okay, I can get writing. So yeah, they're very important aspects there.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I agree with both of you. Basically, you have to be able to follow through in whatever you do in life. And sounds like writing a book is an exciting journey. Basically, you have to be this person that is willing. You have to have your ears open everywhere you go. Just listen to some advice, because somebody might say something that can actually inspire you. So that is really, really amazing. It's actually amazing. How do you select names of your character, Amanda?
I am Ella. She just got out of bed. And so actually in the I Am Fearless book, her and the co-author that I wrote the book with, my daughter and her son are the 2 characters in the book. We don't actually name them, but because it's just I am type of a book, but I drew them as the characters, and then we actually made a YouTube video with them doing all of the yoga poses together. But the funny thing is that Ella's so much taller than Kai, and so in some of the poses she had to, like, even though I drew them as the boy doing the one part and the girl doing the other part as the partner poses, she had to be the boy because she's so much bigger than him because she's taller. So yeah, and then one book,
Can I go get it?
Yeah, you can go find it.
Wait, where is it?
Upstairs somewhere.
What is it called?
Just go upstairs. And then another book I was writing, the yoga journey through India. I did name Ella in it, but I needed a second character for the partner poses for yoga. And so I said, which friend do you want me to draw? And she was like, draw Eva. So I drew her friend Eva, and that was how I decided. So now though, my students, because they know I'm writing this Let's Start Today and Create a Better Tomorrow, they're like, we want you to draw all of us in the book. I'm like, I don't know if I can do that, but yeah, I generally just pick, yeah, here they are. I redid the illustrations for this book though, because this book was when I very first started, and I've done them digitally now instead of doing them by hand. So I redid that one as a digital drawing.
Wait, then where's the new one?
I don't have it yet. So yeah, I just pick people from my life that I want to have in my stories.
Carol Ann, do you help your clients as well to choose their characters, or do they choose them for themselves?
To writing fictional books is not something I've helped somebody with, but because I tend to be more the personal development side and them writing their own story. But if somebody did come along and I could help them with their writing to bring that writer out, I would help them to go in and connect with themselves and go, okay, feel into the book, feel into the story, and what name comes to mind. So I don't tell people, because it's not from me. They have all the answers within them. So every time I work with somebody, I support them in going in and finding those answers within and drawing them out and within. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ladies. I know Amanda has to go to work. Carol Ann, any words of encouragement for anyone who is watching right now who wants to write a book and they don't know how to start? Please, can you explain to them how they can start and how to approach a publishing company as well?
I don't know about how to that's quite a bigger topic in how to approach a publishing company. And maybe that's something we could explore another time. And sort of the ins and outs of publishing perhaps. But just get started, how to find the time. Maybe if you're still struggling with, well, I don't have time, but you know this book is important, you know it needs to get done, but you still can't put it as a priority, I'd suggest you look at your values. Look at your values about writing a book. Look at your values around your business or your life, and just say, what is important to me about my business? And what else is important about my business? And keep asking that question until you get a list of things that come out. And then do the same with writing a book. What's important to me about writing a book? And what else is important? And what else is important? And keep making that list. And then rank the lists that you've got. There's 2 lists. Rank them. Get the top 10, or even just the top 5. Do they actually match, or are they completely different? Because if they're completely different, then you're not going to prioritize writing. Because if you're giving your attention and priority to the business, these values need to match these values. There needs to be a connection so that you can prioritize both somehow. So I would suggest, look at your values.
Thank you so much, Carol Ann. Your values and beliefs are very, very important in everything you do, actually. That's why I always say, if you have any idea how to improve Nkosi Talk Show, please bring it on, as long as it goes with my values, with the Nkosi values and beliefs of Nkosi Talk Show. Why not? So values are very, very important. Any words of encouragement, Amanda, for anyone who wants to write a book right now, please?
I want to go back to what you were saying about getting a publisher. So you really need to do your research and decide if you want to go with the self-publishing route, which is what I did, or to go with the publishing route and getting a publisher, the traditional way of publishing. One of the things that I did before I decided to self-publish was I went to a workshop from a lady who had decided to self-publish because she had done all the research behind why she chose to self-publish. And she chose to self-publish because if she had gone to a publisher, it would have taken her at least 3 years to get it from idea to finished. And she was like, I want this book out now. And so if I had gone to actually publishing company, there's no way I would have been able to publish 8 children's books in 4 years or 3 years, however long it took me. Because there would just be so much more to the process. And so for me, what worked best for me was learning how to self-publish. Now, though, for me, the one thing that's really hard for me is as a busy, independent woman who writes books and then teaches full-time, is learning the marketing piece. So sometimes if you don't have time, getting a publishing company might be a better option for you, because then they do all the promoting and everything else for you, but then you lose control of it. And because for me as a teacher, most of my goals are around empowering kids to write, and it's not my full-time career, I chose to self-publish because I also want to empower people to learn that you can do really amazing things without being rejected by a bunch of publishers too, because sometimes I know that people go through that publishing process and they go, I can't even remember how many publishers J.K. Rowling went to before someone finally published it. And now the Harry Potter series is like one of the most popular in the world. And so it is sometimes really hard to find a publishing company. There are also hybrid companies where you pay some and they publish and they promote it for you. And so I think a lot of people are going that way now too. So you really have to do some research before you start, or as you're writing your book, to decide if you want to do the self-publishing route, if you want to do the hybrid route, or if you want to go with a traditional publisher. And lots of that has to do with how much time you have to commit to it. Do you just want to get your book out to the world because that's what you feel is important? Or is that big marketing piece going to be a challenge for you? And then how are you going to come? Because writing your book really is the easy part. It's the marketing and getting it out there world that, for me, I'm finding that the hard part, because I'm a single mom from Calgary that's a teacher and my global influence isn't huge. And so that's the piece that I find now that I've got my books out. Okay, well, how do I get my books out to more people? And so I just wanted to share that with you, because there's so many things to consider. But I also believe that you just need to start, and the right people that you need to meet will show up along the way. Ella wanted to show you just one of the poses where, see how I drew it, but then Kai had to had to be the one on the bottom.
No.
Okay.
So she wanted to show you this really quickly, and that one. So when we did it as a video, she had to be the bottom and he had to be the top.
He's like my size in this, and I'm his size.
Yeah. Even though they're the same age and they're in the same grade, she's just a lot taller. But I think that anybody who wants to write a book, you really need to just start and take steps every single day to get towards your goal, and to not get discouraged, but also to surround yourself with other writers. Join some writing groups, connect with me, connect with Carol Ann, connect with other people who are in the process of writing and who have connections. Do a collaborative book writing project where you write a piece of a book. I know there's a lot of collaborative projects out there right now. My girlfriend who I wrote the I Am Fearless with, she collaborated on a book where she just wrote one chapter. So keep taking steps towards your goals, and you'll eventually get there.
Thank you so much, ladies, and thank you so much to everyone that is watching. And if you watch this video and you like the message on this video, share some love with everybody else, please, so they can learn how to write a book. And Ngozi Talk Show, we are here Monday to Friday, and 1 p.m. UK time. So please come and support us. And we are on YouTube as well. You can follow us on YouTube as well, please. And Instagram, my daughter started broadcasting on Sunday actually on Instagram, so which is the video pre-recording. She was like, because I can't broadcast the software on Instagram same time. She was like, I'll do it for you. So she can find us on Instagram as well. So please do. And thank you so much, guys, for everything today. And live with grace, everyone. I know Amanda has to go to work.
Welcome to Ngozi Talk Shows. Lead from within.
Find your own voice.
Challenges we have had to overcome in 2020.
Find your own voice.
The world has become united by the unseen, knowing there are no guarantees for tomorrow.
Lead from within.
Find your own voice.
Let the world hear your voice and be filled within.
For the day has come for you to be a great leader.
The time has come to break away from the pain, distraction, experience the unthinkable.
Find your own voice. See you tomorrow, everyone.